Hey everybody, welcome back to Mindful Scrolling. This is present day Michaela. You're about to hear past Michaela. I actually pre-recorded today's episode, but I just wanted to hop on here real quick and do a little intro. I hope you all have been having a great week. It's been an interesting one for me. It's been pretty good. I have been dealing with some very active just stomach and health issues in general this week, so I've been working through that. But otherwise, I'm doing good, been keeping busy. Let me think here for a minute. Okay, so morning moment. I had a couple of really cool ones recently. And I do apologize for the lateness of this episode. Usually I try to get them out on Wednesdays, but life happens, and so it will be coming out on Friday. But my morning moment, I think I discovered something that a lot of you are going to say, like, well, duh, like everybody does this, but I've never really tan. Like, the only times I have laid out in the sun is when I go to the beach. I know, crazy. It's just never been something I've been interested in. And the other day I got up, I went to the gym and did my elliptical for 65 minutes, and I was already dirty and sweaty. And I've gotten a really good tan on my arms just from wearing tank tops and walking outside in the, Georgia, South Carolina sun. And I'm like, you know what, the rest of my body needs some serious help here. So I decided to lay out in the sun. And guys, after I was done, I did 20 minutes on each side, sprayed myself down with sunscreen, which, how is that not the most iconic, like, nostalgic smell ever? Like, it immediately makes you feel like a kid again. And after being out in the sun and just laying out on my back deck in a bikini, watching YouTube and drinking an iced matcha, I had that fresh, that from the beach feeling, like, and then showered after, and I just had like that fresh, like I had just been laying out on the beach, but it was literally on my back deck. So that was definitely a highlight of my week and my morning moment that I thought I wanted to share. Obsession of the week. Oh, that's a good question. What am I obsessed with right now? Honestly, I think just protecting my peace and just really listening to my body and taking care of myself right now. I don't know if that's necessarily what you would consider like an obsession, but I am like obsessed with self-care right now. And not to sound like crazy when I say that, but I have such a hard time relaxing. And I think it's just been really, really important this week with some of like the health things that I've been dealing with, to protect my peace, take time to relax, still be active, but relax when my body wants me to relax. And I've been obsessed with sitting on my front porch and just reading a book and kind of just soaking it all in and enjoying life. Drink of the week. So on Saturday, Philip and I checked out it's a newer local coffee shop for us, and it was a very hot day, so I got something that I've actually tried before, but it was delicious. It is a horchata iced coffee. So basically I did, an iced latte with almond milk, and then they add this cinnamon rice syrup to it. So it tastes like, if you've ever had horchata, it tastes exactly like horchata, but with like a couple shots of espresso in there. It's so good, guys. Like, I've got to figure out how to make this at home. And then Philip got what I think may be one of my favorite like spring summer drinks I've ever tasted before, but it was an espresso tonic. And so basically it's ice, and then they pour espresso over the ice. I think it was a little bit of orange liqueur that they added in there, and then topped it off with tonic water. Oh my gosh. First of all, that would be so easy to make at home. And secondly, it was so delicious and refreshing. Like, perfect for a hot spring summer day. So yeah, those are my drinks of the week. And then book of the week. So I'm kind of glad that this came out a little bit later because my book selection this week was pretty sad. I really didn't read anything that stood out or that I really enjoyed. I did finish a book, if I can get Goodreads to load and pull up here. Okay, so One Puzzling Afternoon I finished by Emily Critchley, and it was okay. I enjoyed The Undoing of Violet Claiborne like a lot better. I gave that one 5 stars. One Puzzling Afternoon I gave 2 stars, which is kind of sad. So it's definitely not one that I would super recommend. I mean, it was more of a mystery than a thriller. Not much to say about it. I don't think I had finished Mad Woman last episode. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but I finished Mad Woman by Chelsea Baker, gave that one 4 stars. I wouldn't consider that one a thriller so much as a domestic drama. It was really good. It was deep. But it was pretty good. So definitely 4 stars. And then right now I am reading Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. And I have been sucked into this book. Like, this is an almost 500-page book. It is huge. And I'm reading it physically. I'm not listening to it on audio right now. And I am really, really loving it. It has a 4-star rating already on Goodreads, and it's looking for me like it'll probably be like a 4.5. I haven't gotten like that 5-star feeling out of it yet, but we will see. But it's been great. I'm already like 30% into the book, and I just started it yesterday or the day before. So I actually own a couple of books by Grady Hendrix. I know he's a very popular author, but I've never read him. Like, I just have these books on my TBR, and I've never read him, and I'm super enjoying this one so far. I kind of wish like the witch part wasn't a part of the story, because it kind of honestly took me out of the story just a little bit. It is set in the 1970s in a home for unwed mothers, so I'm sure you can imagine what that means. And that element of the story, like the historical element, has been really, really good and really interesting. And then kind of like the witchcraft stuff, normally I would be into that. I enjoy stories like that. But it took me out of this particular story, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Aside for that, I think we'll just go ahead and switch over to past Michaela and hop into today's episode. I do have a little bit of a disclaimer. I felt like some of the things that I talk about in friendship breakups and the story that I share, I'm able to talk about now because so much time has passed. And I bear absolutely no ill will at all in any of what I talk about or situations that may be mentioned. So I just wanted to pop in here and just give that little disclaimer before we go into the episode. But I hope you enjoy it. Well, hello everybody. I am actually pre-recording this episode. It has only been 2 days since I released the episode with Philip, which, by the way, how great was he? It felt so fun and so natural to just have a conversation with him and then slap it up here and call it a podcast. That's just how we talk to each other. So you got to see a little genuine interaction between me and my husband. But I hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed making it. I definitely think that Philip is going to be a semi-regular on Mindful Scrolling. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a couple times a month if that's something that would interest you guys. And even if it doesn't, we're probably going to do it anyway because it's just so much fun and we have so much to talk about. Definitely just made everything feel so much more natural and fun. But I'm coming on here today. I'm going to actually, like I said, I'm pre-recording this. So I'm actually going to go back later next week and record an intro. So by the time this comes out, that will be current Michaela, and this is Michaela in the past. But yeah, I don't know. I was just on my walk today, and I've had a couple of different things on my mind. And I just really wanted to go ahead and share now while it's fresh for me. I am definitely PMSing like hardcore right now, which sorry to any dudes that may be out there listening to this. But for us women, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Last month, I didn't even know it was coming. I felt great. And this month, every single symptom that you could possibly get has been plaguing me, and it's been so much fun. So obviously, I'm coming to you in a very just vulnerable, raw state right now. And yeah, it just felt like the perfect time to really have a little bit more of a serious, real talk type of chat. And I hope that you are able to take something from it. I think um, it's a topic that's not talked about enough. When we talk about breakups, we often talk about relationship breakups. And when I say that, obviously, I mean between a man and a woman, like a romantic relationship. But friendship breakups are. I've seen more of a rise lately. Like there has been a couple of other podcasters I listen to that have talked about breaking up with a friend, but I just don't feel like it's a topic that is touched on enough. And it's something that is very relevant, I know, for for everybody. I mean, come on, who has not lost someone in their life? Somebody that they loved and trusted. And yeah, I just thought that it would be interesting to come on here today and kind of talk about my experience and what that looks like now and how that's shaped me, things like that. So, yeah, raw, real, hopefully relatable, and let's just go ahead and dive right in. So friendship breakups. In some ways, I feel like losing a friend is, and don't get me wrong, I've been through romantic breakups too, and they're absolutely horrible. But friendship breakups hit you in it's in a deep way. I think it's a very different way and sometimes even a harder way than losing a romantic partner. And for women, I know for us, when we bond with another woman, that's something really special and really deep. I personally don't just give my heart away to anybody. So and maybe I'll get into personality theory at some point on here, but I love the Myers-Briggs personality test, and I would say I subscribe to it at least a certain extent. I'm not one of those people who is like ride or die. Like if you got this personality, um, like specific these letters, this is definitely who you are, and like by the book, this is exactly your personality. But at least for me, it's really kind of scarily accurate. So for those of you who may be familiar with Myers-Briggs, I am an ENFP. And not only do I know that because I've taken the test multiple times and I've always gotten ENFP, but I have had strangers like type me and have been like, well, you're an ENFP, right? So I think I am pretty much a textbook ENFP. For those of you who may not be familiar with Myers-Briggs and need a little bit of a definition, ENFP, the E stands for extroverted, I intuitive, F feeling, and P prospecting. Or perceiving. We're going to say perceiving because I actually don't know. I pulled that up real quick on Google, and I've never seen the prospecting thing before. It's always been P is perceiving. So extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving. And like digging a little bit deeper into that, ENFPs are considered the most introverted of the extroverts. So just real quick, a couple of our traits that are really misunderstood is people do see us as very outgoing, bubbly people, which we are, but where the introverted introverted processing comes in is that, once we've done our little, bubbly, out there, extroverted time, we need that the rest of the time. Like, I would say for me, it's gotten more the older I've gotten. So at least 75-80% of the time, we need to take a step back to process and kind of recoup before we jump back into being around people. So and we're pouring into people, but all that to say, ENFPs will often sit on the sidelines and observe and watch before they jump in and trust in relationships. And I have definitely found that to be very, very accurate and very true for me. As a kid, I was the child that always wanted the best friend. I would see other little girls in Sunday school or, different programs and things that I was involved in, and I would see them, hanging all over each other, arms slung around each other, laughing and just having the best time. Maybe they had matching hair bows or, whatever it is that, you get envious of as a kid. And I just wanted that so badly, which is kind of funny to me now as an adult because I'm the oldest of 5 girls. So I have 4 sisters, and as an adult, I can see that those women, my siblings, are my best friends. And it's kind of healed this part of me that always believed I needed an outsourced best friend, because I have built-in best friends that I lived with for my entire life and now, call and talk to on a regular basis. We are all long distance, unfortunately, now. But we're working on that. We're working on getting everybody closer. For those of you who may not know, I'm originally from Ohio. So the Cleveland area of Ohio, and that's where we all grew up. And we were still are a very tight-knit family, but an extremely tight-knit family. We were all homeschooled, so we spent a lot of time together. And of course, our relationships aren't perfect, but, and I have varying degrees of, I butt heads with some sisters more than others, but, I love all of them and I definitely consider them my best friends. So I still have a sister in Ohio, and my parents are in Ohio. And then I have my 3 other sisters, 3 youngest sisters are in North Carolina, but they're like on different ends of North Carolina. So I have 2 that are on the coast, and then I have one that's more, I don't know if it's considered like the Piedmont region of North Carolina, if that means anything to you. But still like 3 to 4 hours away from me. So I only see my sisters. It really depends. It varies. Sometimes it's a couple times a year, sometimes it's a couple of, maybe once a month, or, whatever. You get the picture. But, as a kid, I didn't necessarily see my sisters as, like, yeah, they were my friends, but I still felt like I needed that special best friend, um, like, identity almost. Like, I needed to have that. It was like innate. I don't know why. So I remember as a child, there's a few stories like this, and it wasn't like kids didn't like me or didn't have friends, but um I've never been a confrontational person. So I remember living at one of the many homes that we lived in growing up. We moved a lot. And there was a neighbor girl. I was probably, let's see, I'm going to say I was like 8 or 9 years old. So I was very young, but I remember this as a very vivid memory for me. And I remember standing on my side of the yard, like she was my next door neighbor, and just staring at her longingly while she played basketball with her brothers outside. She had 2 older brothers. And I just envied that girl so much. It wasn't because I was jealous of her. She was around my age, maybe a little bit older, and she seemed so cool. She, of course, had her life together. She was playing basketball, of all things. I'm a very non-sporty person, so for me, that was like mesmerizing. And I wanted so badly to be her friend. Like, I longed to be her friend. And I would sit there and I would look and I would look. And because I'm not a confrontational person, even at, 8, 9 years old, I had the hardest time just going up and approaching her and introducing myself. And this girl knew, I know that she knew. Children can be so cruel. But I know that she knew that I was standing there, and this happened more than once, and she never looked my way. And so I think from a very early age, um I associated female friendships outside of my family with rejection. And I think that's really interesting because rejection in friendships, especially close friendships, when you finally have that bond with somebody, it's it's truly like losing a part of yourself. It's like I don't know. I'm not saying I believe in soulmates or anything, but it's like you have that soul connection, that almost spiritual connection with somebody. And once that gets cut off, it's like you've lost part of your identity. Like this person was my my everything. And I think with female friendships, it sometimes does go to a deeper level than even romantic relationships. Now, my husband is my best friend. He is absolutely my best friend, so he does not factor into this at all. But long story short, so, getting older, moving to different places, I've lived in several different states and making friends along the way. A lot of my friends, like close friends, were guys. And, again, that felt very natural to me, but I think is a little interesting to reflect on because I did grow up in a home with all women. Like we used to joke that we even had female pets. Like my dad was quite literally the only man that I saw every day. And maybe there was also a part of me that longed to have like an older brother, but I mean some of these guys were younger than me, and there was, it was very obvious that there was no romantic feelings involved with these friendships. I just genuinely loved hanging out with guys. um I think it was just easier to hang out with guys because there was none of that social pressure. um there was none of that, like, oh well, what, because we all do this, let's admit it, like, oh, what is she thinking, what is, I think that a lot of times women will get dressed up not for the male gaze but because we're under the scrutiny of other women. um and so being friends with men was just a lot easier for me because there was none of that pressure. And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, I loved my guy friends, but I still had that, especially after I moved away from my sisters, I still had that in the back of my head. Like, I really want a best friend, like somebody that I could share my life with. And I've definitely have had some of those over the years. And those are the women. And if you're listening to this, you know who you are, that are my, they're the ones that I know I could fully trust. They've always been there. Our friendships have gone like beyond anything that you could possibly imagine. Like every high and low in life, like those women have been there for me, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. Um, there's been a couple of roommates that have stuck around and are still some what I consider some of my best friends. And I'm really, really grateful for, becoming an adult and um, God bringing, those types of friendships into my life. But um, there has also been friendship loss, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but there's one story in particular that involves two girls actually at the same time. And this was, again, when I had moved out and I was living on my own. Um, and the reason I'm talking about this now is because all these years later, the loss of these friendships, particularly, um, it still hurts to this day. Like, there's still a part of me that's like, I really feel like I was my genuine self throughout our relationship, and the fact that things fell apart the way they did, um, it honestly baffles me. And it hurts because these were women that I trusted. And like I said earlier, I don't give my heart very easily to people, but especially to other females. And these were women that I genuinely trusted with my life. I mean, we traveled together. We saw each other pretty much every day, or at least several times a week, and we're very vulnerable in a way that, looking back at it now, I'm not sure was the most healthy. But long story short, there was a separation with these women that actually occurred twice, and I should have known after the first time to move on. And just like in a romantic relationship, I mean, if something doesn't work out, I definitely subscribe to do not go back to your ex. And I think that also applies to friendships. But the second time around, there was another girl that came between us and got in the way. And ultimately, the friendship ended, I believe, because of that other girl. And it hurts, guys. Like, I was devastated when this happened. But ultimately, I think it ended up being really an answer to prayer, because if I had not lost these friends, I would definitely have not met Philip. And that's a whole story in itself. Wow, okay, so I'm sitting in my computer room, or yeah, the office, and my cat, I could just see her under the monitor, and she just walked up the stairs, and that just absolutely scared the crap out of me. I was just not expecting that at all. But anyway, what was I saying? So if I had not lost these friends at the time, I would have not ever met my husband. And the reason I think that that is important is because this particular friendship, there was a lot of, oh, let's see how to put this delicately. There was a lot of, I'm going to say, toxic spirituality. Um, so we were all Christians, but we were also all single at the time. And I think we went down the path of the danger zone of, God told me this thing, maybe about this guy that I like, and because, quote unquote, God told me this thing, that means that I'm going to marry this person. And I fell into that trap as well, because there was, like three of us all sitting around with crushes that we had at the time, or for me, it was an ex. And, that would be all we would talk about, was how we were going to, like, snag these guys. And the only reason I'm telling this is because there was a protection involved, that I could not see at the time whenever this friendship ultimately fell apart. And the reason I say, like, it was toxic spirituality is that I think there is a very fine line with hearing God's voice and following God's voice, and praying about something and believing something because it's what our emotions want, and searching and looking for every little telltale sign of, like, well, this happened, so that means God's telling me that this thing or this person or whatever, this relationship is definitely going to be mine. And that is so dangerous, guys. I Anybody who tells you that God told them who their husband was or their spouse was, just be careful. Just be careful with that. So, yeah, that it was definitely toxic in a way that I didn't see it at the time. But whenever this relationship ended, it was very much cold turkey. It was not a peaceful ending. It was like they cut me out of their lives completely, like completely ghosted me. and, blocked on everything. Like it was intense. And, I have, personally gone over that situation over and over in my head over the last several years, because it has been several years now. And I don't want to ever be one of those people that's like, oh, well, we had this disagreement, I don't know what I did. But it was truly one of those things that I wasn't really sure what had happened. Like, genuinely wasn't sure what had happened. But there was blessings in it, because very shortly after this friendship ended, I met my husband. And I could not have met my husband if I would have continued to be in that toxic friend group where everybody was, absolutely sure that God had spoken to them about a crush, and, we're so fixated and focused on these crushes that I probably would have missed meeting the man that God put in my life, that God had ordained to be in my life, because we were looking over in the opposite direction. So very grateful for that. I think when we lose friendships that we feel very close to, that are very personal to us, it's important to understand the pain, acknowledge the pain, because it is a very painful experience, but realize that just like in a romantic breakup, closure isn't always going to happen, and it's not always necessary. There is a reason for everything. Nothing happens by mistake, and God doesn't make mistakes, okay? So if something is not meant for you, and this goes beyond relationships, this could be literally anything in your life. This could be a job. This could be, some other opportunity that you've really been invested in. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, there's a reason for that, and there's a protection involved. It took me some time, because that was a big one for me. This was a very, very personal loss. It took me some time to realize what the protection was, and then to be incredibly grateful for it. I think having peace in your heart, and, forgiving where there needs to be forgiveness, and loving that person through the pain, through the heartache, through the maybe even sense of abandonment or rejection, is very, very important. And also realizing that just because a friendship ended doesn't mean that you are flawed. I mean, obviously, if you've done something wrong, if you have hurt somebody, or whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, own up to that. But if it was a toxic separation where somebody just stopped being friends with you because maybe somebody or something else got in the way, and they just felt like you weren't as worthy or as important as this other thing, hold your head up high, because you don't need that in your life. You do not need that. And I promise you that there are people out there who will accept you and love you and not judge you for being you. That is, I think, the biggest takeaway that I've had. And there's been other instances where I've had to separate myself from friends as well. Hopefully this is still recording, because my microphone just like drooped down. I've got a pin to my shirt. Hopefully that doesn't mess with the audio. The biggest issue that I've had with getting this podcast up has definitely been the audio. So we're working on that. Philip's got like this really cool setup. He's my sound engineer. He's my producer. He's all those things. So we're working on it, and hopefully it's been better the last couple of episodes. But there's been times that I've had to distance myself from people too, for different reasons, and I can tell that I've grown in that area, because I used to feel like, I've always been a people pleaser, so I used to feel like if something didn't work out with me and another person, maybe somebody that I really loved, that it was because there was something wrong with me. And I'm not sitting here pointing fingers saying, well, no, there was obviously something wrong with them, because that would be hypocritical. But the people that are meant to be in your life ultimately are going to love you for you no matter what. There won't be anything that you can say or any emotion you can have or any season of life that you walk through that won't be good enough for them. If you are being judged or ostracized for being you, that person is not meant for you. And yes, this does go along with romantic relationships as well. If somebody is criticizing you for genuinely being yourself, again, I am not talking about like you went out of your way to hurt someone or you went out of your way to damage somebody else's feelings. That's wrong. You have to deal with that. If that is the reason that you've lost a friendship or a relationship in your life. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about when friends walk out of your life and you're totally blindsided going, what just happened? Like everything was cool, everything was great. We had these plans and now this person is gone because they got offended because I didn't respond in a way that they liked, or I didn't act a way that they wanted me to act, or I had an emotion that they thought was too much. No, those people are not meant for you. And that's why I have my little tribe now, and I am very grateful for those women. I think it's really beautiful too because most of my friendships, my close friendships at this point, because I have moved around so much, are long distance. So, along with my sisters, my three close friends are long distance as well. And it's really, really neat because even though we don't see each other more than maybe once a year, if even, sometimes like Sarah, my friend Sarah, I think I've gone a couple of years at a time between seeing her. But whenever we talk, it's like no time passed at all. And I know that I can genuinely go, and I'm just going to shout them out in case they're listening. Marissa, Sarah, and Rebecca. But they know that no matter how much time has passed, they are just these beautiful, accepting, judgment-free relationships. And those are the types of people that you need to aspire to have in your life. Those are the type of relationships that are long-lasting, that are edifying, and that heal that part of you that maybe has been hurt and feeling like, because I've been there, I'm never going to have that best friend feeling, you know? And ultimately, like, yeah, we need fellowship. But when a friendship becomes your whole world and you're comparing yourself or you are judging yourself based on somebody else's criteria for you, that's when you know there's a problem. That's when you know that things are toxic and it's time to back off. But it does hurt. And I want to just take a minute to acknowledge that, because no matter what happened in these friendships that I lost, I still love these women. I still have a place in my heart for them. And I think there's a part of me that will always love them. You know, exes, romantic relationships I've had in my past, I don't think about them. I don't care. I've moved on. God has healed so much in my life through Philip. But those women that I lost, there's still a part of me that hurts over that. And there's still a part of me that will always have love there in my heart for those friendships and those times that we had together. And last thing that I want to touch on before I close for today, I want to go back to sibling relationships. If you have a sister, you know, okay, not your sister relationships are not always going to be perfect, okay? But for those of you who have sisters or a sister, you know how deep that type of friendship goes. And what's really, really cool about sister relationships is they have all the same experiences as you. They have the same parents. They grew up in the same household, and things may look a little bit different for each one of you and your siblings, but ultimately that person or those sisters, those siblings are your built-in best friends. And I have really gotten close to my sisters. The older I've gotten, there's a 2-year age gap between me and my sister Anna, and then a 6-year age gap between me and my middle sister Julia. Let me think here. Wow, this is math right now. Okay, an eight-year age gap between me and my sister Maria, who I actually see the most just because she lives the closest. And then an 11-year age gap between me and my youngest sister Lydia. And it's really interesting because, when we were kids, there was such a divide in the ages that I could have never imagined how close I would be to my youngest sisters now. Like Julia, Maria, and Lydia for years were like the girls. They were like the little kids. And now they're all adults. I mean, my youngest sister is 23, which is insane. Oh, is she 23? Yeah, she's 23. Absolutely insane. Like, how did that happen? But just the maturity is there, and we're all adults and we're all living adult lives. And most of my, so like what I'm trying to say is like the age difference doesn't matter anymore. Most of my friends, and my husband is included in this, are younger than me. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't feel restricted by like, oh, well, most everybody that I'm close to is still in their 20s and I am in my almost mid 30s. I don't think it matters once you hit a certain age. So yeah, most of the people that I'm closest to, including, my husband and my siblings, are younger than me, and I think it's really cool. I learn just as much from them as I hope that they learn from me, and we balance each other out. But yeah, I think that's the end of today's episode. Like I said, very raw, very vulnerable. I just felt like getting on here and doing some real talk, because like I said, friendship breakups are a topic that it just doesn't get enough love. And I want you to know that you aren't alone. You're not alone in the pain, and that you're not alone in breaking up with a friend, because we all go through it. So I love you guys. Thanks again for listening. And as always, if you loved this episode, please click the like button and subscribe to Mindful Scrolling so that you never miss a future episode. Okay?